So this is a video in 4 times speed of me drilling a red-cockaded woodpecker cavity at Camp Lejeune. As you can see here, I'm putting up the ladders, making sure that it is secure. This whole video will take about 9 minutes or so to clip through, so it took me about 40 minutes to drill this cavity. You can see that there's a stop and an old limb that was in the way, so I knocked that out of the way. Here I'm bringing up my equipment. I'm going to attach the blower to the ladders first and then the drill. Once they are securely attached, I untie the rope and lower it out of the way. I pass the drill behind me so that it is on my right side. Here I'm just cleaning up the tree a little bit. I'm going to put the headphones on and then the 2-inch bit, which is a 2-inch bit that's 8 inches long, onto my drill, tighten it down, and then I'm going to drill the entrance tunnel. The entrance tunnel is the entrance tunnel that will be used by the bird. You can see that I'm drilling at a slight up angle, that way that any water that does blow into the entrance tunnel will stream back out, and the same for sap. Once that's drilled, I'm going to get the diameter at cavity height using a D-tape. That also gives the sap in that entrance tunnel time to kind of well up so that you can see where the sap is. So here I'm getting out the drop light. I'm going to string that light into the entrance tunnel, and using that light I'll be able to see where there is sap, and I can mark how far back there is a sap wall, and then I can measure that sap wall. That tells me how far back that sap is actually flowing in that tree and how much heartwood there is that I can put this cavity in. If there's not enough, then I would plug the tree. On this tree there was plenty. It was 3 inches of sap wall, and that's what I was measuring there. Now I'm measuring up 3 inches for the sap wall, then plus 2, and making a mark on the tree. That is where I will drill the beginning of my access tunnel. So here I am drilling the beginning of the access tunnel. This essentially creates a place that I can then drill the access tunnel down to the entrance tunnel. Now I know that I have a good quality tree, a tree that is drillable. I'm going to just scrape off some of the bark, and then I'm going to drive nails into the tree on both sides, and I'm going to check them to make sure that they're strong enough to hold my equipment. There you can see I'm hanging the blower. I am done with the 2-inch bit, so I change out my bit. I'm going to put the 1.5-inch bit that's 16 inches long onto my drill, climb up into position, and here I'm going to drill the access tunnel that we will use to access the entrance tunnel to actually drill the cavity. This part will actually be filled in later. Using the blower, I blow out all the chips, all the sawdust. I'm checking to see where I hit the entrance tunnel to make sure that where I actually hit the entrance tunnel is going to allow me to drill the cavity. That is the case. So here I'm drilling what we call the first plunge. So I'm drilling through the access tunnel and into the entrance tunnel, and then through the bottom of the entrance tunnel to create the cavity. I climb up and down the tree several times during this process. I'm checking to see what my progress was, how deep my cavity is. You'll see me string a tape measure down into the cavity. I'm actually checking the depth of the plunge versus the bottom of the entrance tunnel. There, I just did it there. And what we actually do is drill 3 plunges. Each plunge is 1.5 inches across, and we basically make a triangle of the plunges. That area is then going to be routed out to create the cavity, which is approximately 3 to 4 inches deep beyond the bottom of the entrance tunnel. So there's what the 3 plunges look like. That's what I saw down into that tree. So now I need to route that out and take those 3 miniature cavities, those 3 plunges, and turn them into one large cavity, or large enough cavity, for the woodpeckers. That's what I'm doing here. You can see that I kind of move the drill back and forth. I rotate it around, and I'm basically wallowing out that cavity. This is not an exact science, so I'll check it a few times. It's hard to tell exactly where the tip of your drill bit is hitting inside that tree on the end of a gas-powered drill. The drill bit's 16 inches long. You can't see what you're actually drilling into because obviously you're drilling through that access tunnel into an area. So you drill a little bit and come down the tree and check on it and see what needs to be done to route out that area to make it a one smooth cavity without a bunch of jagged edges and points sticking out. There could be some rough edges, but generally we're looking to make a circle. Here I'm at the point where the major part of the cavity is right. I'm using my drop light. So I have a drop light, which is just a bulb on the end of a wire attached to a battery. By stringing that into the entrance tunnel and then looking through the access tunnel, it lights up the cavity and I can see what really needs to be done to finish off the cavity. So I got a good idea of what was in there, where I had a little place that needed some work, and then went back up and worked on the cavity. Again, here I am checking it and that's what I see. It looks like a pretty good cavity. Alright, at this point I'm happy with the cavity, so I'm going to come up, I'm going to take my drill bit off, set my drill onto my ladders. I'm going to extract those nails from the tree. Careful not to bend them so that I can save them for later. I'm going to bring up my rope and tie my equipment onto the end of the rope. Then I can use that rope to lower the equipment safely to the ground. Now I'm going to take my measuring tape and I'm going to measure my access tunnel. What I'm doing is measuring how long of a plug I need to cut to fill in that access tunnel. Here's a little time lapse. I've gone and cut my plug, and now I'm returning back up the tree. I'm going to take my plug and wood putty. I'm going to cover the plug, the outside of the plug, with wood putty. It's like finger painting. And then I'm going to put that plug up into the access tunnel, and I'm going to hammer it into place. Here I'm putting wood putty all over the end of the plug, all over the sides of the plug. Use my hammer to hammer it down into that access tunnel. Then as I get to where I want, I'm going to be looking into the entrance tunnel to make sure that I get it flush with the top of the entrance tunnel. Once I have that, I'm going to use wood putty to fill in that top hole where the access tunnel was, and then I have a small wooden plug that's cut that sits flush up against the side of the tree, against the edge of the tree, and that finishes off the access tunnel. Now the entrance tunnel needs to be puttied. I'm using the back end of my hammer, the handle of my hammer, to put putty into the back of the tunnel to cover up that plug at the bottom of the access tunnel. And then I'm using my fingers to smear wood putty into the edges of the entrance tunnel. Basically what we're trying to do is kind of gum up the sap channels, and then here I am putting on a piece of hardware cloth that's a screen. We call it screening the tree, and the tree is done. So I'm going to come down out of the tree, a little bit of time lapse, but there you go.